Alright, now these are some Japanese maple seedlings. I planted these in a bed about a year ago. And what I used to do, when I first got seedlings, I would actually go in and just cut the tops off of them and make them fill out. Now the way I cut that, I cut it right above a bud. You know, if you cut it in between, that tip's going to die back anyway. But since then, I have quit doing that. And I just plant them, and they didn't grow a lot this year, but next spring these things are going to flush out like crazy. And then if I get a lot of growth that's off balance, and I'll show you on some of the bigger trees, then I'd start cutting that off. But basically I want these to be multi-stemmed, because I found with Japanese red maples that if they're single stem trees, look like this, they don't sell as well. If they've got leaves coming all the way up from the bottom and more branches, even if they're 3 or 4 foot high, they sell a lot better. And I'll show you an example of that. But anyway, so when you plant small seedlings like this, little tiny seedlings, for the most part, I just plant them and let them grow, and then if they start growing with a branch that's way offside, offshoot, just cut that off. And I'm going to show you right over here on a lace leaf weeping. As I'm sitting here, I can see this. Now this is a crimson queen, and this is actually a pretty nice looking little plant, but then it's got this branch going way out here in left field, and I know that this is going to kill some people to watch me do this, but I'm going to cut that thing off, throw it away, and there's another one right here. So I'm going to cut it right above that, the leaf nodes or the buds right there. Clip it off. Now that thing is going to fill out and be very balanced. If I had left this on here like this, that's what it looked like, I would have got new growth out here, making the tree even more off balance. So that has to go. Same thing with here. This tree's in pretty good shape. These things are trying to defoliate for the winter, but I'm going to cut that off to balance it up a little bit. Same thing here. This one is in pretty good shape, but it's got one branch that's coming up here. I'm going to take that off so that I get a weeping canopy going down that way. And then I've got a little bit more here than I want going on. I'm just going to take that right off. So you may think that looks funny now, but that tree, when it flushes out, it's going to flush out evenly and weep down. Same thing with this one. I'm going to cut it here because I got a branch that's going way out here. I'm going to cut that one. I'm going to cut that one, and I'm going to cut that one. Now I'm happy with it, and I know when it flushes out, it's going to look nice and stay that way. Now here, this one is getting a little bit closer to the ground. I'm going to get new growth next year. That's practically going to be touching the ground, so that's not a good thing. So what I do is I just pull all that up into a ponytail like that, cut it just like that. I'm going to throw that away. And no, I'm not going to make cuttings because it's really, really, really hard to root Japanese maples from cuttings, especially this time of the year. The wood is too hard. Look at this plant. It's got almost perfect balance, and then it's got this crazy branch going out, clear out in left field. Gone. Now it's balanced. Same thing here. This one's a lot fuller, but I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to take this back to here. Little tiny clip here and a clip there. Same thing there. That now, this one is growing. This one is kind of off-sided. It's elongated. So for sure, I'm going to go in here and remove that. That changes the tree considerably. I'm going to take that little tiny tip off there. So what you're really trying to do is you're trying to balance the tree. These are weeping, so I want them to look like an umbrella. They're going to weep this way, and then I keep them trimmed up so they don't hang down and touch the ground. So let's wander over this way, Amber. This is a Japanese, just a regular Japanese red maple. It's grown from seed, but it's got good deep red color. It's got two branches kind of going up into nowhere. So I'm going to go way down here. I'm taking that out, and then right here there's a leaf node right there, so I'm going to cut right against that bud right there. So again, this is trash. It's not good for cuttings. It's just way too hard. And I'm going to trim that up like that. And then next spring, you know, I'm going to get branch. I'm going to get new growth here. I'm going to get new growth everywhere, and it's going to be balanced because we trimmed it like that. So let's go up to the other end. We've got some butterfly. We'll take a look at up there. All right, now this is here. I've got a row. There's actually 2 rows of blood good Japanese maple in here. You can see they've got good red color. They've had really good red color all summer. These things need very, very little pruning. I got kind of a rogue branch growing there. I can go through here and make little tiny cuts like this. That's going to improve the tree But overall, they don't need much at all. These have only been in here 2.5 years. We're going to dig them. We're going to start digging this fall to sell these things next spring. You know, we've already got them tagged, and I think we got these priced at what, $79, right? Mm-hmm. Which is actually a pretty good deal. So. Now, same thing here. This one, it's got a couple of branches that are just growing out away from the rest of the tree. So I'm just going to selectively grab a few. As you can see, I don't spend a lot of time deciding where I'm going to cut because I know it's going to fill in and look good. So this is green cascade. You can see this thing has got a couple of crazy branches, so I'm just going to take them off because what I just don't want is I don't want new growth out here next year. It's going to be way out here. It's already out too far away from the plant. So I'm going to cut that back right there, and then I got a branch down here that's kind of growing out, so I'm going to trim that thing up. Other than that, you know, the more you prune them and the more often, the better. You don't have to prune a lot if you prune more often. Just walking down through here, I can see two of these. This is a lace leaf weeping. This is Inibus shadare. This one has got a crazy branch right there. This one right here has a couple of crazy branches. So I'm going to take those off. I can see one from over here. That comes off. Now somewhere here, these butterflies. Now like this butterfly, it's not too bad. I got a couple of dead twigs in there. They had a little bit of stress on these things last year with the drought. That branch just doesn't belong. I'm going to cut it right there, so I left that much. This is coming off. Most of these are pretty good. Now there's a couple down here that kind of went a little bit crazy on me. I'm going to grab that, pull it up in a ponytail. Ponytail there. Right here. Same thing here. Just like that. That comes off. Now when that thing flushes out in the spring with new growth, it's going to look great. Same thing here. Again, if I didn't prune that, I'd have all that new growth way up high like that. So same thing here. This tree is actually pretty balanced except for this branch, this section over here. So I'm going to take it off, trim it up, balance it up a little bit. Same with this one. And then I'm going to take the top. That way the whole tree is pretty well balanced. I'll push it out here so you can see it a little bit. So, and then there's like this one down here. I don't know what this one decided to do, but it looks like I got a tree growing out of a tree. So I'm going to go in here and remove the whole thing. And shame on me for not being on top of that sooner, but I haven't really hurt the tree at all by leaving it and taking it out now. So again, this is another green cascade. I got a crazy branch out here. I got two crazy branches right here, so I'm going to go way back there, kind of balance it up. There's a few right there, so I'm going to pull these up and snip them just like that. Now, I'm sure that people can say, oh, you did it all wrong, you got to do this, you got to do that. Guess what? This is what I do, and it works just fine. There. If I separate that, push it out, you can kind of get an idea. It's much more balanced than it was. Again, now we're back in the Inibus shadare. These are weeping, and I got a branch right here, 3 branches. So off they come. This one right here, it's got 2 or 3 going way out in left field. That one a little more, and then this one, I'm going to take it way back to there. Just like that. It's not rocket science. The most important thing is that you trim it. Now here, this is right in the shiki. This is a nice looking tree, but it's gotten a little bit aggressive. So I'm going to balance it up because we're going to dig this thing. We're going to sell it in the spring, and it will look a lot better on the sales lot if it's got some balance going on. So I'm going to pull all this stuff up into a wad like that. Cut it off, all that goes away, and now I've got a tree that is much more balanced. So basically, here's a little one, and you can see this one has probably been shaded by the others. but it needs to be tightened up. So I'm going to take that comes off, and then this crazy braid. Look at the pretty color though. I mean, these things are really beautiful in the fall, but I can't let that sway me. It doesn't belong there. It has to come off, so I'm going to go way back there, take it off. Next year this tree's going to flush out, and that by this time next fall it'll be absolutely beautiful. So, you know, you're always pruning for the future. Because you know, if you don't, the biggest mistake in the world you can make when it comes to pruning is not to prune often enough, not to prune soon enough, or not to prune enough off when you do prune. That's a mistake that people make. They just don't get it done. They don't get enough of it done soon enough. Same thing here. I'm just going to shorten this up a little bit because I want the tree to be nice and full and balanced when I go to sell it. All right, now I want to show you here. This is a Inibishidera. This is a lace leaf weeping Japanese maple, red in color. Now, when we get these things, a lot of times they're real short. If you don't stake them upright, they don't get any height to them because all they want to do is weep. They'll lay right in the ground if you don't train them at all. So what we do is we get a small bamboo like this, and then we take a branch, we try and find the central leader, and then we just tie it to the bamboo, just like this, to get some height to it, and then eventually we'll let them weep from here, and then at some point these lower branches will come off because we want that umbrella effect. But for now, we just got to get them tied upright to get some height. So that's kind of important. If you buy small Japanese maples, the weeping variety, you got to train them upright. Now these back here, these are butterfly. This is butterfly, and this is an upright variety, so you don't have the same problem, but by the same token, you want to keep them straight so that they're not leaning over. You know, because they're young plants, they tend to want to curve or hoop over, so this gives them some stability until we get the height that we want. Again, back here, this is a weeping variety. This is palmatum. This is a filigree Japanese maple. It's a lace leaf weeper. But the same thing, we're going to keep it upright until we get some height, and then we'll start to train it so it has some shape and head on. Right there, Gabby's helping us with the video as usual, so if you hear in the background, that's Gabby being very, very bored, that's all. All right, now this is an Orange Dream Japanese maple. Of course, it's, you know, middle of October, so this thing is trying to lose its leaves, but you know, because we've got these euchre in the bed that are so high, we're going to get some height on this thing, so we don't want to trim it a lot. But so in other words, we got a couple little branches here. That thing doesn't need much trimming because my wife is out here. She comes out about twice a year and trims just like that. I'll kind of give you an idea. I'm gonna go over here. This is Goshiki Shadare. This is a lace leaf weeping maple. It's got a little bit of variegated leaf. In the spring, it looks kind of pink, but you can see the same thing. This thing has taken on that umbrella look that we're looking for. So basically, when Pam comes out here, anything that's growing way outside of its shape, she just clips it right off. And then down here, you don't want it weeping clear to the ground. It just doesn't look as good. So she goes around underneath and brings it up so it doesn't hang all the way to the ground. That's kind of a personal preference, so whether or not you want to do that. All right, now this one is Crimson Queen, and again, the same thing. We're going for that mushroom shape or rounded shape. I want to point something out because people ask me about this all the time. Look at the leaves. The edge of every leaf is brown. There's nothing wrong with the plant. That's just what happens at the end of the growing season. By the end of July or August, with the hot temperatures and the wind blowing, it's kind of like taking a blow dryer and holding it right against the leaves. These things are so delicately cut that it literally dehydrates the leaves on the edges. It's not going to hurt a thing. This thing will defoliate here in a few weeks. Come spring, it will be absolutely beautiful. Now this is a butterfly. I showed you butterfly in the nursery, and again, this thing has, you know, beautiful with the green and pink new growth that's coming out. Same thing. This thing will get branches that go, you know, so basically we just trim it a little bit because we don't want it real high. A lot of people hate that. They think that's the worst thing in the world. You know, we happen to like it that way, and we get a lot of compliments. But if you notice the stem on this thing, the caliper of that tree is probably a good 3.5 inches, almost 4 inches in diameter, and it's only probably 36 inches high. This is not a weeper. This is an upright plant, but it grows very tight and compact. Again, we keep it shaped, we keep it controlled because we just want a nice looking plant in the landscape. Now this one over here, this is another This one is also Goshiki Shadera, like I showed you out there. Even though it looks different, this one's got some pink on it, but it's a variegated plant, and if we look close at this, you can see the green and white variegations. This new growth is pink, and the same thing. This one happens to have been trained up higher. Remember what we were talking about at the nursery? How high you train it depends about what your finished product is going to look like. So this plant was trained up much higher. Now, if I were out here trimming, I would take that branch off. I've got one here, a little one there, just because if I don't, I'm going to get all kinds of new growth on there in the spring that's going to just be wasted, really, because it's probably going to have to come off. I'm going to grab a little piece right here to show you. This is the variegation in that plant. So it's very, very pink. So it comes out, the new growth comes out, it looks like that, and then it changes as the season goes on or the growth matures a little bit. All right, now this one is Waterfall. This is a lace leaf weeping maple. As you can see, I mean, this thing I have, what is that, 7-8 feet wide. So, and it's still that same umbrella shape. This plant, we've had this in the landscape for about 8 years. So, and it wasn't real big when we put it in. So that thing has grown a lot. So again, that's a weeping variety. We let it do that mushroom, maintain that mushroom shape. Anything that grows outside of that gets cut away. Now this one over here, this one is called Lion's Head. This is very, very different. And somebody recently asked me about pruning Lion's Head. And Lion's Head is a funny plant. It doesn't grow a lot. It only grows about that much a year. So all you can do is shape it a little bit. Keep in mind, it's not a weeping variety, so it tends to grow upright or more horizontal. And if you were really to get in here and look, why don't we try and get in tight? Look at the branching habit on this thing, because this is really an interesting plant. It looks like a, I don't know, it looks very, very mature, but it's very short in stature. So believe it or not, it's just dark green in color, but it's one of my favorite Japanese maples. So
tell us again how much it grows per year.
Probably about that much, about 4 to 5 inches a year. So typically when something grows 4 or 5 inches a year, you don't want to cut all that growth off. You cut about half of it off. And then anything that's growing out of shape, out of balance, just remove that to get it back into that balance. So it's all about picturing in your mind what you want the plant to look like, what you know it should look like. Draw that imaginary line and then cut anything that grows outside of that imaginary line. So think about that. This is the shape that it should be. That's the shape that I want it to be. Anything outside of that imaginary line, clip it off. You'll be so happy that you did down the road. All right, now this is an upright Japanese maple. It's red in color. It looks a lot like Bloodgood. Probably is a lot like Bloodgood. It's called Moonfire. But as you can see, it's got multi-stems down low. If it were up to me and I had a chance with this were my plant when we were young, I would have done everything I could to encourage multiple stems, so I had 3 or 4 plants or stems down low, because it really makes for an interesting plant down the road. We've got a couple more here. This is Sangukaku. This is the same way. This has got multi-stems. 3 stems would have been perfect. So when you're, with a multi-stem plant, you don't really want to. Ideally, you're going to have 3 or 4 multi-stems. But with Japanese maples like this one, move over this way, Amber. We'll get in here, as you can see. This one, well, it has multi-stems up here, but down there it looks like it's got 1 big stem and a small one. So again, it's a Japanese maple. People would go crazy over it. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Any questions at all, just post them down below on the blog here at mikesbackyardnursery.com, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you. So have a good one.